I first met Trish Chong in 2018 when she was a teacher at the Family Narrative Conference that I was co-hosting. We had been invited to go host the conference in Australia, which was amazing and very exciting. And it opened my eyes up to a whole new set of people, photographers and educators who, I might not have met otherwise. And Trish was one of those. She came and spoke at the conference about sort of work-life alignment. And she was such a compelling human, to be honest, just such a genuine and clearly very emotionally attached to the work that she was doing. She was a big believer in what she was doing and was also just such a huge champion of other photographers following their own passion. And we got to be friends in the way that you can make a friend in the course of a short week, and have kept in touch over the years. I have really enjoyed not only watching her work on social media, but also just getting to periodically converse. When I was in Australia the most recent time, we went out and had dinner and had such a lovely time. And she's just one of those people that reminds me of why I love doing the work that I do, of how incredible the people in our industry are, the sort of deep well of inspiration that making those connections outside of social media, it's the only way that you can really connect with people in that way. But I was so excited when she contacted me about coming on the show. She had taught again more recently this past fall, and was teaching specifically about a project that she calls the January Project, where she each January takes on a personal project. And I won't get too far into that because she's going to be telling us all about that. But as soon as she reached out, I was like, whatever it is you want to talk about, the answer is yes. But I'm so excited about this topic. I am so excited for you to get to know her if you haven't already, or if you are unaware of her. Her business is called T Lily Photography. She'll share that information at the end, and of course we'll have it in the show notes. But I think that we're scheduling this for the beginning of the year, and I think it's going to be the perfect time for you to maybe follow her lead. I think that many of us, it takes us, maybe January is a little ambitious. Maybe we need a little bit of time to kind of check off the various things that need doing. But then I think setting aside time, and specifically setting aside time each year to refocus on why we do what we do, why we put so much heart and soul into this business that is not always easy, it can be so valuable. And so I'm excited to share my conversation with Trish, because she does a much better job of saying all that than I just did. Welcome to This Can't Be That Hard. My name is Anami Tonkin, and I help photographers run profitable, sustainable businesses that they love. Each week on the podcast, I cover simple, actionable strategies and systems that photographers at every level of experience can use to earn more money in a more sustainable way. Running a photography business doesn't have to be that hard. You can do it, and I can show you how. Trish, welcome to the This Can't Be That Hard podcast. I am so excited to have you here. It is also just so extra lovely to see your face. I don't get to see it often enough. How are you?
I am very well. We are at the beginning of a long summer break for us Australians here down under. And there's lots to look forward to, crazy things to try and achieve before Christmas, I think. But
Yeah.
yes, it's a lovely stretch of we've got almost 8 weeks or something crazy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Super long. Yeah.
I'm jealous. My older son just got home for the winter break here. And then, my younger son finishes up this week. And then we've got just a couple of weeks. It's not a big break here, but I'll take what I can get. It is nice. And in the meantime, work feels like breakneck pace until then. And I'm really looking forward to January and some like quieter time. The season always kind of puts you through the ringer, I feel like, in all the ways. So, which actually is an unintended and perfect segue into what we're going to be talking about today. By the time this episode drops, it will be January and people will be in that period. And so I am excited to have you on here to talk about, well, you know what? I'm not going to even intro. I'm going to let you take the microphone and tell us a little bit about who you are and the project that you have been doing that is the reason for our conversation today.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for having me on here. I've been a long time listener, and I love, the vast array of people that you get on here. So it's really an honor and a privilege to be here. So thank you for that.
The privilege is mine.
Um, so for me, I've been a photographer for a long time. So 2025 will mark like my 18th year of business,
Oh,
which
wow.
is just
Congrats.
crazy. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
really, I think the longer I'm in it, the more I'm just so grateful. So I started out as a wedding photographer and due to having kids, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I think I really want my focus to be family photography for freedom, flexibility, lifestyle, all of those things.
Sure.
And so that's sort of been my main focus for the past 10 or so years. Weaved being an educator into that in the last 5 to 10 years, I guess, just
Mm-hmm.
sharing what I love, really. And what we're here to talk about today is the January project, which is something I began. I didn't begin it. I am not the originator of this. If any
Sure.
of you guys have heard of Kristen Cook, she's a beautiful, beautiful human being and photographer in Melbourne. And I saw her do it on Instagram back in the day. And I was like, oh, this looks good. This looks like something I can jump on board with. And my kids were, I think, like, I had one kid at the time. And then I was like, I'm going to start this next year after my second kid was born. So my kids were 1 and 2 when I started it. And essentially, it is a project that I undertake every year in January. It is one black and white photo each day alongside just like a written reflection of
Mm-hmm.
something about the photo, something about the day that relates. Yeah, keep it up for the entire month. And there's just been, it's just it's a personal investment, but it has paid off in so many different ways, both personally and in business. And I think only seeing it through the benefit of having done it for over a decade, so I think 12 years now, you really just kind of see how much it gives in so many ways. And so I'm here to encourage people to take on something that personally speaks to them. Maybe it's a January project. Maybe if you're on the other side of the world, it becomes a July project. Is that when
Right.
your big holidays are? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just something that just, really speaks to you and just your, I don't know, your reason for picking up the camera in the first place, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is something that it grounds you to. Yeah.
So, talk to me a little bit about how these projects have been similar over the years and how they've varied over the years. Like, do you take on kind of a different subject matter every year? Is that similar, but it's just kind of your different perspective because you're in a
Mm.
different place in life? Like, how does that all go?
Good question. So to me, I feel like they're more same than different. It's essentially just my family. So
Mm-hmm.
it's always just been centered around family life,
Mm-hmm.
around where my kids are in that season of life. And I guess a reflection of, as a mother, where I am in that
Mm-hmm.
season of life too. So initially, it's, all about having the kids all on you, those moments that you want to remember. And then I don't always just focus on the happy side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I like, focus on their like grumpy faces because they're just hot or they just need some comfort, something like that. So it's sort of just I don't know, a capture of a time capsule in a way. I kind of, when I speak about it, I'm like, yeah, it's like how I time travel. I can like revisit that pocket
Yeah.
of January life. And it's a time where I don't really work through January. So it's summer. I could probably work a lot because everybody else is on holiday, but I choose to just try and keep that time to be my family time, to be present. And it's like, this is this is why I chose to run my own business, because
Right.
I get to choose to have presence when I guess it counts, when they need someone around and when we can just enjoy that time as a family. So it's a representation of that. Yeah.
I love that. And then, so you are all in on this for a month. You've got sort of your images, you've got a written record.
Mm.
What are you doing with those? Are you posting them as you go? Is it just for you the whole time? do you bind it up in a book? Like, the end? What's the wrap up at the end?
Yeah, the end goal is to have something that my kids can look at and be able to hold and touch and remember and look back on when they're older, especially with all that written, all that time that goes into writing something.
Yeah.
I really want them to be able to find that again when they're older. And they already have started to do so. So my kids are now 9, 12, and 13.
Hmm.
And I take a photo every day. I write a little thing, a little caption every day. And it's a real like practice of gratitude and reflection as well, I find. I try and post it every day. And I think for me, that's kind of part of the inbuilt methodology of making it work because
Hmm.
there's some kind of accountability there. It's like, when people
Right.
start doing the gym stuff and they're like, okay, but if they post it, they're more likely to keep on going.
Right.
So I encourage people that want to do something like this, if you personally need that extra push to actually carry it through, then yeah, post it every day. So for most of the first part of the first 10 years, I posted it on my grid.
Hmm.
And so it was a daily post. I was literally there like 11:58 p.m. trying to get it up for the day.
Right.
But as my kids have gotten older, like last year, I just posted it on stories because I wanted
Hmm.
it to be a little more transient in that sense.
Hmm.
But for our own records, I will put it all up in a nice little hardcover linen bound book that says just January 20 something or other. And we have a whole collection of those on our shelves. And I mean, when they were younger, the kids were like you're taking a photo again, like the camera's out again, they're annoyed. But as they got older, as they could start to read,
Yeah.
and they were reading back on their own lives, I guess, and just laughing at themselves, at the silly things they'd say or the
Hmm.
stuff that they were doing, they began to just really love it. And so there's always some, kind of quiet time in the year where they just kind of pull out the albums and sit on the couch and read it together. And, as someone who finds there's a lot of discipline to actually get through the month, that kind of, those moments make it all worthwhile, just
Yeah.
knowing that that exists for them. Yeah.
Totally. So this is totally off topic. I'm currently reading that book, Crying in H Mart. Have you read that?
Oh, I love that book. Yes, yes.
I am loving it too. I'm not done with it yet, but sort of going through that book or reading that book and thinking about the ways, and I'm sort of in this place in my life where I'm grateful to still have both of my parents. And of course, I've got two kids, but I sort of see it from both perspectives now, right? Where I think about my relationship with my own parents and sort of what they have been able to give me, and the fact that I'm still lucky enough to be able to call them up and have conversations and all that,
Yeah.
ask questions. And then, I think about with my relationship with my own children and what I am trying to create for them,
Yeah.
such that God forbid, if I were to disappear off the face of the earth, like what do I have left behind for them? And I like to
Mm.
think that there's some, but listening to you talk about this, and I do want to talk next about how this applies for someone who maybe doesn't have kids, because I think that
Sure.
this could absolutely be a project and a process for anyone. But yeah, I mean, I do think that when you add the parenthood layer on top of it, it
Mm.
has sort of that, just our children tend to have the cobbler's kids have no shoes. And I love the idea of setting aside a finite period of time
Yeah.
where you
Key
are
keyword.
committed. Yeah, yeah, where you are committed to
Yeah.
that sort of daily practice. I think that's really smart.
Yeah, I think if it was not finite, like I see some people that do like 365 projects, and I'm like, oh, I cannot.
Right, right.
Honestly, I get to like day 10 or 11, and I'm like, why did I do this again?
Yeah.
But you push on,
31 feels
and yeah,
doable by
yeah.
comparison.
Yeah, and I think that, it's also a self growth thing and a self discipline. It's like building
Mhm,
your own habits and
mhm.
realizing that if you push through, you can do things like this. And
Yeah,
it just, I don't know, gives you just a perspective for other things in life as well, I think. Yeah.
yeah. So since you have been doing this for a long time, and I know that you've talked to other photographers about this or helped other photographers do this as well,
Hmm.
have you seen examples of people who are doing this in a way that is not related to family life and children?
Well, I think mostly it has been as a mother to a mother.
Sure.
I think has been it's a real connection piece, and people are like, oh yeah, this can work for me too, and it doesn't
Yeah.
even need to be on a fancy camera or anything. But to be honest, I relate it to just finding things in life, like wherever you're at and whatever season you are,
Yeah.
finding things that you can reflect on and find gratitude with wherever whoever you are, wherever you are, and whatever speaks to
Yeah.
you. So I think it's to me it's kind of the container of a personal project as a whole. Like I think
Hmm.
especially for us as photographers,
Yeah.
we start out with this passion. It's like a fire. And you know, if you think back to when you first picked up the camera and why you started your business, it was all about how much of a love you had for what you do. But as you know, you listen more to business things, and don't, you know, I'm definitely more a business person than I am, I think, the creative artist. But yeah, the nature of the world and the hustle culture of this world is so much more of the doing, all of this like kind of to do list things. And while they all have their place, I think they need to be grounded in, you know, in why it works for you and why
Yeah.
it speaks to you. So whoever you are, whether you have kids or not, I think it can just be a practice of gratitude. And if you can weave it into your visual practice, because as photographers, that's who we are and what we do, I think it will bring, yeah, amazing benefits throughout your career as well. I think it's really like almost like a remedy for burnout, right? If you can keep
Yeah.
yourself grounded to what you believe in and your values, and to build out your story from there, I think that's how we keep on going. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I talk a lot about, my sort of purpose on the show is
Mm.
helping photographers profitable, sustainable
Yeah.
businesses that they love. And the that they love part
Mm.
is the piece of it that really does require, I can talk about sustainability and
Mhm.
profitability as just business all day long. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, most photographers, the part that they love about their business is the art. It's not,
Mhm.
the rest of it is sort of a
Yeah.
means to an end rather
Yeah.
than the purpose. However, it's important to talk about that. And it's important to talk about staying true to the things that you love, because as soon as that starts to fall apart, then the whole like
Yeah.
motivation for getting up and being profitable and being sustainable, like then, that fizzles out. And that is not a recipe for sustainability in the long term. So I think that this is, although it's an art project, it is so vitally important to, maintain your love for the work that you're doing
Yeah.
in this industry. I think
Yeah.
it really shows through when you're kind of phoning it in. So I love this idea of kind of, making it an annual practice to come back to it and just make photographs for you.
Mm.
Question, just like a tiny one, but you mentioned in the beginning that all of these photos that you do for this are black and white. Is that just a personal preference? Is there some sort of like specific reason for that?
It was the way I saw Christian do it. I
Mhm.
also have a love for black and white.
You
Like,
do
I
beautiful
could
black and white
probably,
work.
yeah, I would like, deliver most of my image in black and white if I could, but I don't. But for myself, it also just brought a cohesiveness and a
Mhm.
consistency to the photos throughout the years, especially when my kids were just wearing fluoro. I'm like, yay for black and white. It just helps a little.
Right.
But no, I just love how timeless it becomes as well. Like,
Yeah.
it also becomes, yeah, more relatable and consistent and cohesive, really, and just because I love it. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's no real rules for this project, I think. Just
Sure.
just the ones you put on yourself. And so just in addition to that, I also only ever use like one camera and one lens, which is the
Hmm.
35 millimeter lens, just because it allows me to take more of a documentary approach to what
Hmm.
I'm seeing. And for years I was a 50 and 85 girl. So putting the
Hmm.
35 on was like, okay, I'm going to stretch myself in doing this. And now, that's become part of how I see and how I do my client work as well. So I think one of the things I did also want to mention was just how doing things like this for yourself, for your personal kind of passions, also just by nature seeps into the work that you do for others
Yeah.
and helps shapes your voice. So for me, when I first started, I was mainly a wedding photographer, and this was just my personal thing for my own family. And I think at that time, like 12, 13 years ago, documentary photography wasn't the same as it is now. So I was really able to, just by nature of doing what I did for that 1 month every year, kind of create, I guess, be known for doing this type of work. And
Hmm.
by just natural, organic kind of follow on, I would get people saying, I love the way you shoot your family. Can you do that for me? And I was like, oh, that's all I want to do. I want to shoot January project for people. But
Right.
obviously it's not very practical to do that, but
Right.
to take the same approach and perspective, trying to just capture their beautiful everyday is what I like to
Hmm.
refer to. Yeah, to do that was just lovely to be able to connect with the people that also loved that. So I think
Right.
that's like, wherever you start, if you start in a place where that you love, then you will attract people who love that. And then you get to just keep doing what you love. And I just think that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there is something to be said for posting personal work regularly. And
Mm,
I think it's hard to stick to that when you're in the thick of just when you're not doing it really intentionally,
mm,
because of course we have client work that we want to post and we're trying to book more client work and there's this whole thing. But my brother is a furniture maker, and I feel like his marketing, now I will say he has to book many fewer clients over the course of a year than I do because his projects are more expensive. Like
yeah.
an individual project takes longer and costs more. However, the way that he has grown his social media over time, he's not on there showing finished pieces and talking about that all the time. He does post those when they're ready, but he is always talking about like the little issues that he's coming up with in a piece that he's working on, and he'll show a bit of a process. And I recognize that what you're talking about isn't exactly a process driven thing. However, if you're sort of introducing the fact that you've got this process and then you're letting people watch over your shoulder over the course of that, people love that. Like they get invested. And what's nice, and the reason that I brought my brother's stuff up, is that even though what he is doing is 100% marketing his business and he gets a lot of business through
Yeah.
Instagram,
Yeah.
his sort of out loud purpose there is very rarely like contact me to get, he's breaking all of the marketing rules. There's very infrequently a call to action, but it feels less salesy. So I think that that people then are more engaged, and you may find that, I don't know, you tell me, do you feel like that has been a really good tool for you for specifically for booking clients? I mean, it sounds like some of that.
It's Yeah, it's definitely for aligning the right clients. And I think that's
Right.
really big.
Yeah.
The longer your own business to really be working with aligned clients. I think, in today's day and age, I see everywhere that storytelling is currently what marketing is at the height of it, right? And
Hmm.
you do that so well, by the way. But by showing things that you love and
Hmm.
by, just putting little things out there, it causes people to like maybe have a little comment or a question, especially when,
Right.
I mean, in the business of family photography, and it's like a mother to a mother, really.
Hmm.
And you speak about an issue of motherhood that you're dealing with, or something that you're learning from, or on this side of, 5 years down the track or something, you got to look back and you see things with a different perspective. People are like,
Yeah.
yes, there's hope, or yes,
Right.
I understand, or I feel that too. And it's all about those little connections and conversations that just come from a place of value, really. Like, as in, you're not trying to sell, you're just being one human to another.
Right.
And you're connecting first, which, yeah, marketing makes things hard. Sometimes you're like, oh, does that person have like an underlying motive here? But
Right.
oh, yeah, it's just hard. I think if we can just all connect as a human to a human, then whatever comes about is what's meant to come about. Yeah.
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 Yeah, absolutely. Are there other ways that you feel like this practice has affected your business over the years?
Yeah. So I think becoming like being able to teach other people photography, I think has
Hmm.
also kind of come about from this approach, because I think I've always tried to do something, as long as within my world at least, a little bit
Yeah.
different to what I can see other people doing.
Yeah.
So in one of the early years of doing the January project, I met up with another friend, well, kind of acquaintance at the time, and she was a real memory keeper, but in the way of journaling. And
Hmm.
so we collaborated and we did like this series of like in-person and online workshops all about memory keeping. So I was in charge of all the visual storytelling element of memory keeping from the perspective of like doing a type of January project or documenting life in that way.
Hmm.
And she did all the how to journal and memory keeping prompts and writing about it. I think we even released these like actual hardcover journals, and they were called like Write Your Heart Out. And we went to Melbourne and did the whole like, saw them actually bind our books, and it was just a
Yeah.
whole labor of love, one of those
Yeah.
things. And anyway, so that, that had its season. And I actually, someone that I met, because I met you through the family narrative, but
Hmm.
someone else that I met there, Amy Oliver, who
Hmm.
is in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So we connected through that. And she was like, I want to teach mums photography, but I need someone to do it with. And I was like, well, I've already done all the content work here. So we really put our heads together, and then created a course for mums to just teach them how to use their big fancy camera, essentially. So, because we just knew so many moms who were like, oh, we had a baby, we got this big fancy camera, and it just collects dust. So,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah, so equipping moms to just document life for themselves in that way, because often they just kind of have a regret of like, I don't take enough photos of my kids, or I'm not in them as well. So just trying to help them with that, but also teaching the value of memory keeping for yourself as a family. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does all come back to, or it feels like it all comes back to this idea of resetting your own personal focus on
Mm.
what you do and the art and the why behind what you do. Because this business, and I feel like maybe it's just because it's currently the end of the year and people are on the tail end of busy season, and I know that this has been a tough year for a lot of photographers, and I just feel like the communities out there are kind of chock full of people experiencing some form of burnout. And I think that and so I'm particularly grateful to you for coming and sharing about this, because I think it's something that people need. Somebody actually posted in one of my Facebook groups about like questioning whether they want to maybe close their business next year. And I was like, well, maybe wait until you've had a chance to take a couple of weeks off. Give that
I
some.
think I saw your reply to that one, and I was like,
Yeah.
very
And
well said.
oh, thanks. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, there are seasons in life, and far be it for me, I'm not some sort of like, no, everybody should keep going all the time, push through. I think that we have to listen to those inner voices, but I do think it's important to make sort of a more reflective decision around stuff, because giving up when things get hard isn't it's not the right answer in any part of life. And I think that what you're describing here is just it's such a simple and yet like so frequently overlooked part of what we do. And when we get into the business side and we're just business, it does. I mean, even I can get oversaturated with that and have to go back to, why am I doing this? And what's the pleasure, like the true joy that I get out of this work? Yeah. So it's so good. I understand that you've got a place where people can go and sort of see examples of your projects over the years, or one year. I don't remember which one that
Yeah,
was.
so
Yeah.
I put together just like a little slideshow of kind of, I guess, almost 10 years worth of
Nice.
imagery. So you can kind of watch
Oh,
my children grow. I love it. I love it.
I bet that's,
Um,
I can't wait to go see it.
yeah, so just a little slideshow there, and then also something that you can download to just help you think through this project, I guess. Even not just this project, but any kind of personal work that you might want to jump into,
Yeah.
how you can make it work for you. Just some prompts that you can think through. So yeah, I'd love for people to check that out. And let me know what
Love
you think.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. And such a good season, even though the Northern Hemisphere is not on this big long break, but I still feel like January, February is such a good time for these kinds of projects in just about any photographer's business. So it's
That's so
exciting.
true. Yeah.
Yay. Well,
Yeah,
Trish,
I
thank
think,
you so much. Yeah. Tell everybody where they can find that link.
yeah, so it's my business is T Lily Photography. So it's TEALILY photography.com/freebie. So
Love it.
we'll find you there. Yeah. I guess I'll
Excellent.
just leave people with one thing. And I
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
that question that says, what would you do if you couldn't fail? Right. And I think for this type of work, if it's just personal work, there's just no way you can fail. So if
Yeah.
you want to put your thoughts into that, and give it a go, and maybe take like one action step, maybe you write it down, maybe you put a date in your diary to just have a think about it or to do something about it. I think it will, yeah, reward you in more ways than you know.
Ugh, so good. It's so great to see you.
Likewise.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Anami.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this week's episode of This Can't Be That Hard. I'll be back same time, same place next week. If you like the show, be sure to check out thiscan'tbethathard.com to explore all the resources we have for photographers. And of course, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review of the show on iTunes or Spotify. As always, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic week.